Today I've got a very special build for you. This is hands down my favorite variant of a Paladin. It is not only extremely fun to play and powerful, but it also has perfect progression. You're not going to feel snubbed in the earlier acts of the game because you're going to get significant upgrades in acts 1, 2, and 3. This build has two foundational synergies which allow it to thrive. I'll cover those briefly, followed by the rest of our gear, and then level ups. Be sure to check the timestamps. The end of this video is a speedrun of going to the Grimforge for Adamantine gear at a very low level, followed by dealing with Nier and all the Dwergar. Alright, let's get into it. The first synergy is Adamantine armor plus the Adamantine shield and the boots of Stormy Clamor. The armor and the shield are fine by themselves, but when you pair them together is when they truly shine. Whether someone hits us or not, just the fact that they attack us will apply reeling to them. Pair that with the boots of Stormy Clamor, and now they're also going to have to suffer the effects of reverberation. It's extremely potent, especially with Oath of the Crown Paladin, since we'll be able to drag aggro onto ourselves with Champion Challenge. The second synergy comes online in Act 2 and is a combination of reverb, bleed, the Callous Glow Ring, and a source of light. The way this will play out is we'll equip the Slicing Short Sword with the Risky Ring for advantage to activate Deep Flesh Slice. Turn that into a Thunder or Lightning weapon with a Drakethroat Glaive. Now on hit, enemies will take 4 turns of Reverberation from our boots and gloves, plus bleeding. As a Cleric multiclass, we can equip Produce Flame, meaning any enemies within 9 meters of us will be within a source of light. At the start of their turn, they'll take extra damage from Bleed, which will also apply radiant damage because of the Callous Glow Ring and Produce Flame. That re-triggers the Gloves of Belligerent Skies, meaning they can instantly pop their reverb and get proned at the start of their turn. This is even more potent than having them slip on ice since they don't even have to move. In Act 3, that evolves into something even greater with Nyrulna and the Amulet of Ball. Nyrulna's signature ability, Zephyr Flash, can apply bleed to a whole group of enemies, maximizing the potency of Zephyr Flash through Destructive Wrath. We can do up to 50 damage through Thunder and 2 with Radiant. It is extremely powerful. Keep in mind, one synergy is not truly complete without the other. They go together like bread and butter. Alright, let's do an overview of the rest of our gear. For your helmet, I'd recommend either the Hat of Storm Scion's Power, the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, or the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. I wear the Diadem early for extra damage, but late game when you want to use your Paladin class actions and your Cleric spells, you're going to want some Arcane Acuity. The Helmet is fine for that, but since we're doing thunder damage, the Hat of Storm Scion's Power works just as well here, maybe even better. If you want to make this character into a dodge tank, wear the Holy Lance Helm, use Shield of Faith, and equip the Cloak of Displacement. That'll do radiant damage to enemies that miss us if they fail a dex save. Now for my actual cloak, if you see someone hitting me with a spell or range attack then getting proned, that's thanks to the Thunder Skin Cloak. Reverberating enemies that attack us can become dazed, which will re-trigger our boots of Stormy Clamor. For our armor, I'm choosing the heavy version of the Adamantine gear because I think it's better. Gloves of Belligerent Skies and boots of Stormy Clamor are essential. Act 1 weapon is Fowler Alluve, Act 2 is the Slicing Short Sword, and Act 3 is Nyrulna. For your shield, the one and only Adamantine. Amulet of Ball is what I wear at endgame. Early game, doesn't really matter. For your first ring slot, the essential one is the Callous Glow Ring. The Risky Ring gets added to that in Act 2, but in Act 3 I like to wear the Ring of Arcane Synergy for extra damage. Ring of Spiteful Thunder can also be good if you don't want to use the mobile feat in order to do hit and run tactics before you get Thunderbolt Strike, since that can daze enemies on hit, which prevents them from reacting. Ring of Absolute Force is good early game for extra damage, and there's also the Ring of Elemental Fusion, which is mostly for style points. For your bow, there are several good options here. My go-to is the Hellfire Engine Crossbow for Lightning Arrow. If you're trying to play this build solo and want better initiative, there's always the Hellrider Longbow. Early game, Jolt Shooter is quite fun to use, and there's always the Darkfire Shortbow in Act 2 if you want to round out this build's resistances. Alright, let's go through level ups. To start the game off, you're going to want to begin as a Paladin so we get extra attacks sooner. Going with Oath of the Crown, that has the best class actions for this build in my opinion, through Righteous Clarity and Champion's Challenge. Righteous Clarity doubles our proficiency bonus to attack rolls, which is absolutely fantastic. For your ability scores, although we'll be using Nyrulna, I don't really care about strength because I'm not going to be throwing it. If you want to incorporate throwing into this build, you'll have to drink a strength elixir and then probably grab Tavern Brawler. But for my purposes, I'm going to dump strength. You're going to want 16 dexterity, 15 constitution, and 17 charisma. Dump intelligence and wisdom. Level 2, we get our fighting style. If you're going for the dodge tank with a Holy Lance Helm, I'd recommend defense. But overall, I prefer the extra damage with dueling since we'll be wearing a shield in our offhand. Versatile weapons are technically one-handed. Paladin level 3, we get Champion's Challenge. Command becomes an oath spell. I'm going to slot in Shield of Faith and Divine Favor. Level 4, we get access to our first feat. Now, keep in mind, hit and run tactics only work if we have Thunderbolt Strike, Mobile, or the Ring of Spiteful Thunder. In the first 2 acts, we won't be able to capitalize on Thunderbolt Strike or the Ring of Spiteful Thunder since both ring slots will be filled. For that reason, I'm grabbing Mobile Feat, which I'm going to keep until I have Nyrulna. You can get rid of this late game and then put on the Ring of Spiteful Thunder, and then swap it out for the Ring of Arcane Synergy once you have Thunderbolt Strike. Late game, we're going to get ability improvement instead to even out Constitution and Charisma. At level 5, we get extra attack. Prepared spells don't matter too much. That's our last level of Paladin, by the way. Level 6, we're going to dip into Cleric before Warlock. That's important because whatever comes on this list last is going to dictate what our primary ability is. Now, don't worry too much about the star. That can be a bit deceptive. It's going to hover over whatever we have the most levels in when we're not looking at the level up screen. For your spells, you're going to want Produce Flame. The other two don't really matter. We're going with the Tempest domain. For your prepared spell, be sure to grab Sanctuary. We're now going to correct our primary ability by dipping into either Warlock or Sorcerer. Storm Sorcerer and Warlock Hexblade both give you access to Booming Blade, which is what I want the most. Since I'm not throwing Nyrulna, I also want a Hex weapon, but Storm Sorcery can also be good with Tempestuous Magic. But for my purposes, Hexblade Warlock, grab Booming Blade, and Minor Illusion can be helpful for grouping enemies before a fight to hit them with a deadly Zephyr Flash. For your Hexblade spells, you're going to want Shield, and the other one doesn't really matter too much. Now, the star's over Charisma right now. Just do remember, if that changes and hovers Wisdom, whatever came last on this list dictates our casting ability, so that's going to remain Charisma. Back into Cleric now. We get access to Destructive Wrath at level 8 finally. Be sure that whatever spells you're choosing from Cleric aren't combat oriented and aren't going to really care about our spellcasting modifier, except for something that's so good by default like Spirit Guardians. I'm going to grab Sanctuary as well as Spiritual Weapon. At Cleric level 4, we get our second feat and another cantrip. Cantrip doesn't really matter. For the second feat, push your Charisma up to 20. If you're planning to throw Nyrulna, this is when I'd recommend getting Tavern Brawler, since we're level 10 now. Level 11, Cleric level 5, we get access to Spirit Guardians. And at level 12, we have Thunderbolt Strike. At this point, you really don't need the Ring of Spiteful Thunder or Mobile anymore. We'll be knocking back enemies with every single attack. Now, if you want to get this earlier at level 11, you can wait to get Warlock at the very end. The only downside to that is you won't have Booming Blade earlier on in the game, which I feel like is kind of a big deal. So, up to you how you want to go about doing this. But that's my personal preference. I feel like the outcome to what this does is completely viable. Alright, let's speedrun becoming OP quickly in Act 1. First thing you're going to want to do is buy roids from Ethel, chug those, and shapeshift into a drow with Disguise Self. I started the game as a wizard, so I'd have access to ritual spells. We're using Enhanced Leap and Featherfall for better mobility.
Could be interesting.
Be sure to pick up the Guidance Amulet so dialogue checks become easier. As a drow, we can now make our way over towards the Blighted Village. In drow form, we won't have to worry about the goblins. They'll let us through and give us some free experience. At the back of the village, talk to Fezark. DC 5 charisma check to intimidate him, very simple for some more experience. And this should be enough to push us up to level 3. Level up and get invisibility and Misty Step. Free Barkus if you want to, then make your way into the well. Rebuff, being doubly sure to cast Featherfall on yourself, or else this is going to be a one-way trip. We'll also use invisibility to get around the spiders without combat. We're going to be taking the scenic route into the Underdark. This drops us conveniently close to our first weapon of this run, Falar Aluv. Once you have the sword, next stop is the Myconid colony. Pop the torch stalks if you want to play it safe. Honesty is the best policy with the mushroom men. Tell them about your brainworm and they'll let you through no problem. Span through their dialogue. Next we gotta talk to Blurg to start Omelium's quest. That will be important since in order to purchase or steal the boots of Stormy Clamor, we have to have completed his questline. He'll tell you about a supposed cure. Once that's done, Misty Step into the Myconid Vault, right between the two front crystals. The game will reposition you. Two important items here. Number 1 is the Manual to the Grimforge. Wizards have advantage on deciphering it. And next is the Shadow of Menzoberranzan. Our next destination is the Arcane Tower. I'm going to avoid the Dwergar for now, but we can still grab the warp point on the beach since it's outside their line of sight. Keep in mind, I'm playing as Gale right now, so I have light armor proficiency due to being a human. If you can't cast while wearing the Shadow of Menzoberranzan, you'll have to bring along another character to do this, give them your buffs, and then have them turn invisible. We don't want to get shot by the turrets. Activate the invisibility from your new helmet. Put it in turn-based mode since it's only 2 turns. With our enhanced mobility, it's no problem to get around the turrets. We're now going to make our way around the tower. Can exit turn-based mode once we're at a line of sight. Once you reach the bottom, get rid of the door and grab one of the Susser Blooms in order to activate the tower. There are several items we need here. First one you'll find as you make your way up the stairs, an amulet with Detect Thoughts. That'll come in handy later. Next floor up is the Alchemy Garden. Be sure to grab the Tongues of Madness and Tamask Spores for Omelium. Floor above that you'll find a chest containing Mistress Grace. We can now take Featherfall off our spell sheet. We're heading to the top floor, so be sure to read Roads of Darkness. This gives extra dialogue with Bernard, meaning we don't need to fight him if we select the right one. We're here for the Club of Hill Giant Strength. Smash the stool. We'll give that to Astarion so he has better strength for jumping around. Now, if Bernard didn't give you Guiding Light, there's a switch on this bookcase for accessing the basement if you need to. Head back to Omelium, drink his potion. Whether or not you pass these checks, I'm pretty sure the only penalty for failing is you become poisoned and take a bit of damage, so it's not too bad. Either way, once that's done, you'll have access to his inventory, and you can buy the boots of Stormy Clamor or steal them. That's 2 items down. Next destination is Grimforge. Head back to the beach. I'd recommend using a charisma character for this since it's DC 10. But I have inspiration right now, so Gale was fine for this. Cast Restoration on Thula. She'll give you the boots if you don't have an antidote, or you can steal them from her. That'll be our ticket to getting across the lake without fighting the Dwergar. Once you reach the forge, shove some Dwergar into the water. On one of the gnome bodies is an invisibility ring. Not necessary, but it's nice to have as an insurance policy in case something goes horribly wrong. Make your way to the back of the forge using a hand sleep, pick up the Splint mold, and then double back across the lava to the room with the large double doors. In the very back, on a skeleton, you will find the shield mold. Gonna steal the rune powder, because there's no point in leaving it behind. Philomene's not too happy about this, so I had to knock her out. Now we can make some armor. Head to the back of the forge once again. Rebuff. Make sure you're in stealth when you do this. First one's easy, we just jump across. And we can break it apart with our staff. Second one's a bit trickier since it has a mephite trigger if you go down there. So break it from up top using a bow, then cross the gap in stealth and pick it up, then warp away. Once you're done loading the crucible, descend the platform and then get Gale out of there unless you want him to get turned into a pancake. You can go ahead and activate the valve and lever from up top. Once the first one is forged, here comes the tricky part. Now this is sped up to 1.5 speed, so Grim isn't quite this fast, but whenever you activate the crucible or the molded chamber, that'll take you out of turn-based mode. So what you're going to want to do is play a bit of Ring Around the Rosie with Grim. Open it up, keep looping him, put it back into turn-based mode, and then insert the mithril. Same thing with the mold. We're only level 3 right now, so Grim solo would be a death sentence. Get behind him and then get off the platform. Same thing as you did with the first one. Jump down one last time and claim your prize. Now, that's technically all we needed to do, but assuming you don't want Nir's quest to conclude with him dying in a gas chamber, and you actually want to get some of the other items from this area, let's start a revolution. Crouching around will get the scrying eye to follow you. Lead it near a cliffside, and then we can throw it into the chasm. This will let you do Brithvar's quest. Talk to him. This is where the Detect Thoughts amulet will come in handy. We need to convince him we're not, in fact, a true soul.
The stench. If I should split your head open and poke around in there if you like.
The shiver return.
The stench don't lie. You're one of them. Drunken in true souls.
Once he's convinced, we can strike a bargain with him.
Want to earn some gold?
If you want half the money, you're gonna have to barter for it. Might as well give it a shot. It's not gonna turn him hostile if you fail this. Either way, it's just a couple hundred more gold.
Fine. Some now move.
Move! I don't have time.
Give Thurn her boots back. She'll be dead soon enough anyways, so we might as well get the bracing ring. It's actually pretty decent on the build for the moment. I've given the gear to Lae'zel since I haven't respec'd into a Paladin yet. Shoving is one of the other ways to apply reverb with the boots. Pick up the satchels. And before we free Nir, any Dwergar still highlighted yellow, we'll side with him. So, might as well chuck a couple of them into the chasm. Bait them around with Minor Illusion if you have it. Talk to them so they break away from the main group, and then dispose of them. Might as well stack the deck in our favor. Now, here's a PSA. This little piece of shit, Belligerent. 13 times I reloaded to see how brain dead he was. And 13 times he ran through these flames and turned everyone hostile. So here's the solution. Throw the rune pattern. Nah, I'm just kidding. Put the explosives off to the side a little bit and there's a clear path, and look at that. He doesn't even come out. What do you know? Now, I wasn't too inclined to save these stupid little gnomes at this point, but you still can. Just tell Nir not to kill them, and then call in your new buddy Brithvar. He's always up to murder a true soul. Now, you could use the invisibility ring to slip away if you left your party members somewhere else, but I wanted to test out the Adamantine gear. I'm sure these guys would do a great job of wiping each other out. But as you can see, Fowler Alluve plus Boots of Stormy Clamor will apply lots of stacks of reverb. Once you kill Thrin, there's another great ring for the build. Ring of Absolute Force, extra thunder damage. I hit level 4 from throwing the Dwergar into the chasm, so this really wasn't too bad. Deploying a tactical Lae'zel and firing some missiles at near is basically all she wrote. Now, if you do want the gnomes to go free, you're going to have to convince Brithvar to let them go. DC 10 check. Either way, I genuinely didn't care at this point, but might have to kill him too if you want to go goody two-shoes. If Barkus is here and you freed him from the windmill, tell him to go to your camp or else he's going to end up dead before he even reaches Act 2. And that concludes the Grimforge in a nutshell. Now, mind you, this only took about 40 minutes to get the armor and another half hour to start the revolution. I haven't even short rested yet, so I went to Free Withers, respec'd into a Paladin, then picked up the Jolt Shooter from Floric, as well as the Archery Gloves from the Goblin Camp, and that's a pretty well-rounded build to start the game off with.